For this part of the evaluation, I'm going to be reflecting on my preliminary task, and I'll be comparing it to my actual finished product as well. So I've got a copy of my preliminary front page, and I've got the contents page as well, and then obviously I've got the front page of my finished magazine and the contents page as well. Obviously, the first obvious difference is the quality of them. You can obviously tell which one's the finished one and which one is the preliminary one. And obviously I've progressed a lot for a number of different reasons. The first one, I think, the main one, was the time limit. Obviously we had 2 hours to complete the preliminary task, and that was to, you know, get photos, edit, and obviously like deal with everything else on the magazine. And that obviously isn't enough time to make a very successful magazine. And obviously I realised that with the time that it took us to make my finished product. Like, I think one of the main ones as well was making it on Microsoft Publisher. You didn't really have as many options as you do on Photoshop. And as I learned how to use Photoshop more, I was able to add more detail and make it look more professional, because I think with this as well, it just doesn't really look professional. It doesn't have that magazine feel about it. And obviously the word art was limited. I wasn't really able to edit the picture much, like you could only edit brightness and stuff like that. I couldn't really add any effects on that were going to appeal to the target audience. As well, the font is obviously evidently changed. I was able to look on Dafont, that's what I used to find most of my fonts. And I think they really made a difference. As you can see, like on this part, it really, like, it helped to back up the genre what my magazine was. Like, it's a very electropop feel font. So obviously, you know, there's lots of connotations from the fonts, which I found to be really nice and obviously strengthen the genre of my magazine. Yeah, and obviously I wasn't allowed to, well, not that I wasn't allowed, just we didn't really have the time to search on Dafont for fonts for our preliminary tasks, so they're quite boring and plain, to be honest, so it didn't really have anything like attractive and appealing to the audience. As well, on this one I've got a lot of text overlapping, which was probably just because of time, and I didn't really at the time think about, as you can see here, like this is overlapping and that's not a very clear thing, so it doesn't really stand out, and especially that one as well. Obviously that's something that you wouldn't find in a professional magazine, because obviously it doesn't stand out to potential buyers and they'll probably walk past it. Definitely with here as well, like the white with the white overlapping the white, it's just not professional. But obviously I decided for a more simplistic look for this one, as I think it really fits my my genre. I think it would be something that category of magazine would do. And although I've got quite a lot of text on my contents page, none of it's overlapping, so it's still really clear looking. So yeah, I think my preliminary task, the main issue was that it doesn't look professional. Like, you definitely wouldn't see something like that in a corner shop or wherever you buy a magazine from. And like that was one of my main focuses when making my actual product, to make it look really professional. And I think that I've achieved that, especially on the contents page. Like, I really like the neat layout. I think it is something that you would find in a magazine, and I'm pleased with that, definitely. As well with the preliminary task, obviously we had to make like a student magazine, and obviously we had the target audience as students, but we didn't have anything specific, so we didn't really have any of the interest. We just had obviously the generalised idea that they go to school and that, you know, they might want to go to uni, UCAS points, they might want to find out, I don't know, just things that students would like to do. But it didn't really help with in terms of colours, specific models, specific poses. We couldn't really determine that, because there's like a generalised idea of students. There's no real specific one thing. Do you know what I mean? There's loads of different types of students, so you're catering for basically everybody. Whereas in my actual magazine, I had a specific target audience, and I referred to that throughout all of it. So I was able to, you know, do the mise-en-scene with the model, the colour connotations, the text connotations. I was able to include exactly what I think the target audience would really like. And this definitely helps, because I think that would appeal so much more to a target audience rather than just a generalised view. And it's easier to be specific, because then I think you really will attract the viewers that you want to attract. So yeah, I think if you don't really have a direction with a target audience or a specific interest, I think the magazine's really unlikely to be successful, so definitely. As well, for this magazine as well, in my preliminary task, we didn't have any real planning, because obviously we're on a time limit, so the main focus was to get it finished and get it done as best we could at the time. We had no real chance to plan with pictures, plan with poses. We just kind of did what we thought would work and what would attract students, but there was no real time into thinking actually who's the majority of the market. Do the majority of students have a particular interest or particular thing that they would be attracted to? It was more, yeah, just like a generalised view. And obviously when we did with media product, we had stuff like flat plans. They helped a lot, because actually it's from when doing all of your research and planning on your blog, and then for actually come and start making the magazine, doing the flat plans helped a lot, because it really like got you into the frame of mind of thinking about the positioning of things, which was definitely something what you need to think about, because it is probably one of the hardest elements of making it. But yeah, and it's evident, I think, in the preliminary tasks that we've had no planning, like flat plans, because everything's quite overlapping. Everything, it looks a bit like it's been done in a rush, which was the situation really. Yeah, it just looks unprofessional. And on the photographs as well, they're done in low key lighting, so they weren't the best quality, and they wouldn't be attractive to the people buying the magazine. You definitely walk past that. It doesn't really do the models any justice. It doesn't really highlight the things what I'd like to highlight. You can definitely see that the mise-en-scene isn't well thought out, as the backgrounds, there's things in what aren't really relevant, stuff that they don't really give anything to the magazine. Yeah, it just looks very unprofessional, and you can tell. And obviously compared to this one, I was able to, like, you know, get the high key lighting, like, and illuminate exactly what I wanted. Like, one of the main focuses was to get a face to look really white, because that's something that really links to the I don't know, the target audience of electropop. You know, they've got like a generalised stereotypical idea, you could say, was, you know, like the pale, the black makeup, really like funky hairstyles and funky hats and stuff like that. I think that was really captured in these photos especially. And I was able to get gig pictures as well, which were good lighting as well. And obviously we're able to take photos in more than one place, whereas for the preliminary task we just really had to take photos from being inside of college, so there was no variety, there was no real things outside of college to attract students, because of the time limit really. And obviously for the actual product it was totally different, because we could really experiment with the mise-en-scene of the photos, and we had a lot of time to really evaluate the positioning and what we thought would attract the target audience the most. And I think obviously it's clear that I've improved a lot from the preliminary, in terms of professionalism, layout. Obviously I've learned a lot about Photoshop, about researching your target audience, and really mise-en-scene a lot. It wasn't something that I really thought of before. Like, I must admit, when I was doing my preliminary task, I didn't really give mise-en-scene a thought. But as I was making my other magazine, like, the photographs obviously took a lot more time, because I was really thinking about, you know, the connotations of what the photographs will be saying, you know, the hidden meanings, and even the text choices as well. And I think it's really effective, because straight away if I look at this, I can tell that it's kind of an electropop. It's something funky that I think electropop lovers would be interested in. And I'm really, really pleased with my finished product. So yeah, that's my reflection from my preliminary to my finished product.